It's now a string of different missile launches from North Korea, and I actually spoke to an expert today who says they are showing an increasing amount of sophistication in the type of missiles that they are deploying. North Korea was known for effectively copying the technology of other countries, particularly Russia and China. They'd also been known to hack into other countries' systems in order to steal the plans of these weapons. But these latest weapons indicate that North Korea seems to be generating its own technology with regards to these missiles. So this is significant. And although some experts suggest that although this is being called a submarine-launched ballistic missile, in fact, it's more likely to be off a barge that has been put under the water as opposed to a functioning submarine. It is still a significant development in North Korea's arsenal. And these missiles are significant because North Korea says that these missiles are a type of deterrent against attacks, particularly from the United States. But these missiles give them the capability that even if the United States was to launch an all-out assault on North Korea, that they have weapons that could be deployed that would be very hard to be knocked out, if you will, in that first round. So this is significant, but it is also a difficult issue for the region because, yes, North Korea is banned by United Nations Security Council resolutions from ballistic missile testing, but it's hard to hold that moral argument, if you will, while you've got South Korea launching ballistic missiles of its own and showing them off to the world. So it is a difficult issue for the United Nations and the global community to be singling out North Korea and say it's not appropriate for them to be testing this type of weaponry when they can continue to point to the fact that other parts of the region are doing exactly that.
Indeed. And there seems to be this kind of disconnect. There's intelligence chiefs meeting in South Korea talking about ways of managing this issue, but there is no connection, it would seem, between the North and the South in terms of any meaningful exchanges to work this issue out and try and get peace on the peninsula.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a literal disconnect, if you will, when it comes to these hotlines, which are supposed to allow North and South Korea to directly communicate with each other. This has been an ongoing issue between the two countries. Last year, they were severed by North Korea when they were angry about a certain issue. They were then reconnected. Earlier this year, then they were disconnected again when North Korea was upset. But even when they are connected, North Korea apparently is not giving forward guidance to South Korea when they launch a ballistic missile as they've just done. So it begs the question, what is the point of these hotlines if North Korea isn't even communicating with the South when they're going to launch these type of ballistic missiles? And it's this kind of this ritual every time we have one of these launches. We actually get the information from the South Korean military services and the Japanese military services, and we usually have some sort of comment from the United States, and then subsequently we hear from the North Koreans. And we go through this ritual, and then we'll have the United Nations meet, but there doesn't seem to be any meaningful progress. And yes, we have these now meetings between the spy chiefs, and we'll have the envoys from the United States and Japan and South Korea meeting, and they talk about the need for dialogue. But until you actually see some sort of face-to-face meetings or some meaningful progress, it's just this ongoing ritual where there's these launches, there's these talks, there's these discussions about what it all means. But there's no meaningful progress.
This is might seem like a strange segue because, of course, global attention, Carrington, has been on Squid Game. It's just a sensation. There's another Korean Netflix show that is getting people in South Korea talking about the country's compulsory military service. Is there meaningful discussion about changing this? I mean, especially against the backdrop of what's happening with the North.
Yeah, and conscription is one of the backbones of the South Korean defence system. And for it all young men are expected to partake in serving their country in this way. And it has been controversial for different reasons over the years. There's also, on one hand, a push for women to be included in the conscription services. Some people say it's unfair to young men who then have to compete with women for jobs, but still have to serve this time during their 20s normally, and then women don't have to serve the same time. Others say that women have had to bear the brunt of raising children, so it is actually fair. But now there is a growing move for actually conscription to be completely done away with. And part of the argument is that the war, any war that would ever be fought between South and North Korea is not going to be won simply by how many numbers they can put to the field. It's going to be won through technology and the weaponry that could be deployed. So whether or not conscription is actually necessary for the national defence. But it is an important part of the kind of national character here in South Korea, especially to some of the older generations. And the idea of doing away with conscription doesn't sit well with them. It'll be interesting. We are in the middle now of the presidential election campaign. Here in South Korea, the presidents can only serve one term. So President Moon Jae-in will finish his term in May. The election will take place in March. His party, President Moon's party, has already chosen its candidate, and the major opposition party will be choosing theirs shortly. Whether or not conscription becomes one of the major issues for this election remains to be seen. National defence is an issue, and there are some clear differences between the two main parties, but probably even more important are issues around the economy, particularly around housing, which is a major issue for young people, those same young people who are in large part conscripted, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this does pick up any momentum, though, and whether or not any of the major candidates take it on as a policy platform.
Yeah, something we'll watch in the months ahead. Great to talk. Thanks, Carrington.
Thanks for having me.